Hi, everyone. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. I'm your host, Marisa B. Today, I have with me Nikki Hung, artist, photographer, gallery owner, director, and curator of Womenswork.Art. Hi, Nikki. Thank you for coming to speak to the audience today.
Thank you for having me today, Marisa.
Am I right in understanding that your gallery deals with emerging female artists and women under the radar, as well as other marginalized groups?
That is correct.
I'm so glad you're here today. I love that concept of under the radar. I think you and I have spoken about that before. Really, in essence, it's people whose voices aren't heard or their visions can't be seen. And of course, we know, as we had spoken before, that they're often underestimated, underpaid, underappreciated. How is your gallery helping this to change for women and other marginalized groups?
So that's a very good question, Marisa. So the core foundations of our gallery space is that we are offering a affordable community gallery space for people to be able to showcase their work and highlighting those artists who otherwise are underrepresented in the contemporary arts community. Whether they are, emerging, they're student artists, or they're mid-career and they're changing, pivoting different mediums and different bodies of work, or if they're even just experimenting with a different body of work or a different theme, and and just being able to give them affordable space in order to do that within the city of Poughkeepsie is vitally important.
Yes. And of course, as you said, the gallery is in the city of Poughkeepsie. It's a brick and mortar gallery. What I found fascinating, and I've been there before, you've had a number of shows that are a bit different, a departure, and definitely giving a voice to people. I know you had one early on in the gallery's career about incarcerated individuals. You gave them a chance to express themselves in, I believe, both art and writing, correct?
That is correct. That show was a curatorial effort that was done before my tenure started with the gallery. That was the founder, Nancy Lent, had worked with another curator who was working on a long-term project where they were working in the prison and jail system to collect the artwork and the writings of different artists who were either currently incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, and are starting to express their emotions and their experiences through the visual and written arts.
And once your tenure began, I know you've had, for example, a one-woman show where I found that it was fascinating. The artist, I believe she was a photographer, had taken photos of individuals dealing with mental illness, and she put them in front of the camera, which was a departure from artists who use art, photography, but also visual arts and expressive and creative arts when they are in the throes of some sort of mental anguish or to help them heal. So this was very different. Am I correct in saying that they were the individuals in front of the camera who were able to voice their expressions, their feelings for this artist?
That is correct. That was an exhibition that we had around a year ago, actually, this month. And the artist, she is a young photographer who is Poughkeepsie based, and she did a whole series of work that was involving highlighting mental illness and photographing subjects who have dealt with mental health issues and abuse.
And of course, you're also a photographer as well as an artist. And I know that you've done work. Your departure is a little bit different in your subject matter. And you have given space to these artists. Do you put any of your work with them?
No, I actually try to keep my own work separate from the curated and juried exhibitions. I don't like to just insert my work into an exhibition space where it's not necessary to hear my voice. And also, like, a lot of times too, that, you know, if I were to insert my own work into a exhibition, it would be like one less space that another more deserving artist could be able to use that real estate on the walls to be able to share their expressions and to share their work.
I see.
As a white woman, you know, growing up here in the Hudson Valley, you know, obviously I've had some privileges afforded to me that are not afforded to other people. And they, you know, utilizing, you know, the space that I have and my privilege, I would rather be able to give it back to other people.
And I know that you do a number of shows that are definitely out of the norm. So I'm sure that you like to give that space to them. For example, I know that you were dealing with one of the shows, and I believe that when you and I had spoken a while back, you mentioned that you might want to do that show on a regular basis. You were giving voice to individuals that deal with nature religions or nature spirituality, right? You've had Wiccan, pagan people that deal with the nature spirituality and outside possibly the norm. Is that correct?
That is correct. We did a show that was called Ritual, Art, and Magic. And that was exploring the themes of the juxtaposition of ritual within not just magic, the magic community, but also within contemporary arts. And we had a huge amount of submissions for that show.
Mm-hmm.
And the you know, we only had X amount of space, so we literally filled it like floor to ceiling, filled with artwork. And
oh, wow.
There was a huge turnout for, you know, for this event. And it was one of our largest, it was actually our largest post-pandemic opening since before the pandemic. And this year we are going to be re-exploring a theme in a similar vein, but this year it's going to be deities.
Oh, I see.
Portrayal in art. And we are going to be, the call is going to be going out very soon. So it'll be on our social media and on our newsletters and on our website. And that show will be running October into November.
Well, that is definitely a departure from many of the galleries. I'm assuming you're going to probably get in a lot of the goddess art that's out there. That'll be interesting. I'll definitely have to come to see that, because I find that the whole opening up of spirituality and the different types of spiritual paths is not offered often.
No.
As far as a venue is concerned. I mean, not that artists don't do that work or don't express themselves in that fashion, but I don't think that a lot of the galleries, at least galleries in my immediate area, open it up to that.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well, which is why I kind of was, you know, leaning more towards something like that. I didn't want to do anything that was like Halloween themed, or, you know, it just happened to be around that time frame. And it was, you know, it was nice to keep it in that area. And because it is a very important time of the year for the Wiccan, pagan, or magical people community. And to, and I've been one of like who has definitely not had to shy away from exploring controversial themes for shows. We've done lots of different controversial themes that a lot of other art spaces have not explored as much here. And we've kind of opened up a dialogue with artists in the community where it is a space where they can share their voice, that is we don't censor work. We don't want to, you know, pass judgment on an artist's statement on a certain theme. And so it's ranged from, political views all the way to spiritual views. And it's definitely, while the work is very beautiful, it's not just, art for, the sake of being beautiful. It's, art that usually has a message.
Well, after all, isn't it? Doesn't it art evoke such emotion? So that's why it works so well in healing. That many people utilize it for its healing power for themselves. But that brings me to a little bit about your work. You depart a little bit from the norm as well. Well, at least in your photography, correct? You are an artist that deals with, I believe it's called taphophilia.
Yes, taphophilia is the love and appreciation for cemeteries and graveyards. And so I use the statuary and the iconography that I find in cemeteries and graveyards as my subjects. And while there's a lot of landscapes that are used in my work, there's a lot of close-ups and there's a lot of changing of angles to make them look like they're more alive, almost like models.
Well, that's very interesting. I'm going to love to see a few of your pictures. I would love for you to be able to show me some. After all, it's stonework or marble work. I mean, that's artists that are doing it, I mean, the pieces are beautiful. It's a sad subject, but it's a beautiful subject. If you look at the actual pieces, they really are beautiful. They are sculpted. When it's called for, it has to be an artist that's doing that. I mean, otherwise, how could it be done?
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was actually going to show some of my work right now.
Yes, let me share the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I can share the screen. Let's see, is that a capability?
Yep.
No, wait a minute. Let me see. No, I have to allow you, correct?
Yeah.
Let's see. I just want to make sure. Can you get in? Let's see if you can do it if you can get yours in.
No, I can't.
Not yet. Here we go. Let's try this. Try that now.
All right, now I'm doing it.
Okay, you're in? Okay, perfect.
So here is my website with some of the samples of my work that I
look at that.
And so before the pandemic, I actually was traveling quite a bit to parts of the country. And, then after the pandemic, I focused a lot on staying within the areas, the
okay, beautiful
locations that are here within the that are for various different. There's a lot of historical cemeteries as well, and you go during different types of year, and it's always changing. And so my goal is, I know I'm
oh, look at that. Wow, look at that.
Well, so it's kind of tough to get out and about recently, but I'm hoping, when I have a little bit more downtime, if I have downtime, to be able to, go back to expand this body of work.
And from what I understand, you also do, is it called urban exploration? That's a theme also, correct? Urban. I know that you're involved in that as well. Your art deals with urban exploration. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So urban exploration is actually the using photography to explore like abandoned buildings and homes. And so,
which, of course, that's haunting to some extent. Sad, and evokes a lot of emotion. Do you have some of that we can see maybe?
I do. Give me just one moment. I am just pulling those images up right now. And So one of my most recent projects was actually took place in at Catskill Game Farm, which is about an hour north of Poughkeepsie.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to gain access to the site when I was during the pandemic. I was
Mm-hmm.
able to gain access to it. And so these are some
Oh,
of the structures inside this abandoned
wow.
game farm. And it was a game farm and a zoo. This was the
Mm-hmm.
shop that was on the location. And so it has like this, it has a very interesting past. There's a lot of people I've met who used to come here many years ago. This has been closed probably about a little almost 15, 20 years now.
Oh,
And
wow, that long.
yeah, so you can, and it's changed hands a bunch of different times.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I know that they have actually renovated a few of the buildings on the premises to use as a
Mm-hmm.
hotel and as like a bed and breakfast, but the
Oh.
majority of the property is still unutilized.
I mean, I must confess that as a child, I went there a few times, and I was lucky enough, fortunate enough to take my daughter when she was young there, probably shortly before they closed. So she too was able to enjoy it because it was a lovely place in the area.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah,
so sad to see. It is very sad to see photos like this. But I
yeah,
know that you go to a number of places, correct, that have this type of landscape.
yes. So I go to, as many different places as I can gain access to.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, it would be, like an abandoned house.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it would be like I've gone to the Hudson Valley Psychiatric Center like many, many years ago, before many of the buildings were
Mm-hmm.
torn down. And I've also been to a few other buildings as well. There was a project that, still hasn't really like, that I wanted to bring to light, like being
Mm-hmm.
able to showcase a lot of these abandoned buildings, especially here in Poughkeepsie, while we're in the midst of a revitalization and renovations
Mm-hmm.
effort with a lot of the buildings that are here in the city, and being able to go ahead and like photograph them before they're torn down or renovated.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you, how did you come to get involved with art to begin with, and then specifically photography?
So I've always had an interest in art as a kid. My father was an artist himself, and he was an illustrator for a while. And he went to art school and
Mm-hmm.
he did the whole starving artist thing for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I always knew I wanted to be in, do something in the arts. And when I went to school, I studied graphic design. Um, I did any sort of arts workshops that I could, and I didn't do photography when I was in college because it was at the time very expensive, and I just couldn't afford taking the courses. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I went to college at the time where it was starting to uh with film was just starting to phase out and
Mm-hmm. Oh,
start
okay.
to phase in and becoming more affordable
Mm-hmm.
for the general public. So I got into photography when I was in my mid 20s, and
Mm-hmm.
I had access to a digital camera, and I was able to just, go around and just take photos of different things. And I used to go and take pictures at cemeteries back when we used to have like Polaroids and like disposable cameras.
Oh.
And so this was over 20 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
being able to come with a digital camera and being able to access digital software such as Lightroom and Photoshop and Illustrator, and being able to,
Mm-hmm.
do all that post editing that really highlights the work and
Mhm.
like makes it shine is, for me it was just like a light clicked, and I was like, oh,
Mhm.
I can produce work that is just as good as film.
Mhm. And of course, you are a professional photographer as well. Um, I know that you work with schools and universities to take their sports photography.
Yes, I freelance right now to work with different schools with it throughout the Hudson Valley and photographing their sports teams and their candid photo events, and
Mhm.
being able to like catch those, unscripted moments, which I very
Mhm.
much enjoy. It's a different type of arena than compared to fine art, but I
Mhm.
very much enjoy it.
And now, how did you come to get involved with the gallery? I mean, of course, you're a woman, but how did you get involved? You mentioned that the someone had begun the gallery initially, Nancy Lent.
Yes.
And how did you come to get involved with this project?
So I met Nancy through other endeavors that we were working on with other organizations. We were both members of the Dutchess County Arts Association,
Mhm.
also known as Barrett Arts Center. And so we met through there, and she told me that she had started a brick and mortar space a few blocks away from the Barrett Arts Center. And I very much enjoyed, what she had started with her mission of uplifting, women
Mhm.
in arts and emerging in under the radar artists, and felt with, especially with my background in working in arts administration and as a
Mhm.
also in not-for-profit arts sector, I felt like this was a very good opportunity to be able to use my skills and my past experiences to take it to the next level.
Mhm. And of course, since then, now you're the not only the owner, but the director and the curator. And I know you've had some shows. I think we had spoken about it before. You actually had a show recently where um, they were dealing with utensils, primarily kitchen utensils, which was the domain of women years back, or the presumed domain of women, correct? And you use that in a whole other way, which I found fascinating.
That is correct. That's our current show right now. It is called Kitchen Utilitarian Made Beautiful. It
Mhm.
was curated by Eleanor Levy, who is the program manager for the folk arts program at Arts Mid Hudson.
Mhm.
And she came to me with the idea because initially she was going to do it at Arts Mid Hudson. And then when that idea fell through, she approached me
Mhm.
about doing it with us. And I obliged, and gave her the space to be able to, create the show. And I helped her, be able to accept the submissions. This was, we just put a call out and just said, hey, this is what we're looking for. You know, if you're interested, just come and submit your work.
Mhm.
And we had a huge variety of artwork that was submitted for the show.
I thought it was just fascinating, to utilize all of that kitchen equipment in a different way.
Yeah,
Especially, as I said, being the domain of women or the presumed domain of women before. And then here, artists are utilizing these tools in a different manner. It was very good. And I know that you have another show because you do give opportunity to marginalized groups. And you mentioned that you're doing a show coming up soon, if I'm not mistaken. Is it African American women or is it African descent?
it is actually all BIPOC women artists. It's BIPOC women and um, non-binary and femme-identifying artists that
Mm-hmm.
have been invited to take part in this exhibition. And
Mm-hmm.
it's called Seen Heard, and it will be starting July 7th and going until August 26th.
And tell me a little bit about how one would get in touch with you, for example, if somebody's an artist, a female artist, I mean, but you have other marginalized groups too. So, but if someone's an artist and they want to find out about what kind of shows that you're curating, or someone that's assisting you, a co-curator, how would they find out about what you're doing there, and how can they get their work to you?
So the best way to be able to reach out to us is through our Instagram and our Facebook. And also we have a website, www.womenswork.art.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just reaching out to us by our general info email. And we do advertise our calls for submissions on all of our social media channels and our website. And we also have a newsletter that goes out all the time. And that gets the word out about different things that we're doing. We also do workshops. We do artist talks. We are doing, we're trying to cultivate a small programming slot, so that way we were doing some sort of programming pre-pandemic, and then now we're focusing on rebuilding that after now that the pandemic has been subsided.
Well, I will definitely put all those links in the program notes, so that people can get a hold of you and they can see your newsletter or sign up for your newsletter. So I definitely will do that, because I'm sure that people are going to reach out from the audience and ask me questions about how they can get in touch with you and the gallery. I'm sure that there are a lot of artists listening. And I know, for example, you've even given art therapists a voice in your gallery. You've had a show where art therapists have actually shown their own work that they've done, which was another departure. Usually art therapists curate shows for the clients that they have, and they let them show their work. This was very different. How did you come to that?
So this was actually an idea that was approached to me by the curator for that show, who is a local artist and trained art therapist named Randy Chaplin. She is one of the artists over at the Puff Studios, which is about a block and a half from where we are. She has shown her work in many of our exhibitions, and she's a good friend of mine as well. And she came with the idea of she had the idea for a while of being able to get art therapists together to showcase their own work and talk a little bit about, the process of art therapy and the different techniques and methods that are utilized in the field.
That's great. I know it's like I said, it's a departure. Usually it's the art therapists that are looking for a venue to show the work of their clients. And tell me about a little bit about how you're planning for your curatorial year. How does that work?
So a lot of times, I'll have a list of ideas or themes that I will put together as open juried exhibitions. And then there's also people will approach me about renting the space for their own shows, whether it's a solo show or a group show, or they're sharing it with another artist. Those are options that we also explore as well. And then that gives them total creative control. I don't get involved in the curatorial process for those types of shows. I try to allow the artists and the curators to use the space and to make it their own, and not give my input, unless they ask for input.
And you also handle other spaces outside of the gallery, right? You're involved with one of the local venues that you put art in their location, correct?
I am. So we are actually curating the wall space over at the Crafted Cups original flagship location, which is on Raymond Avenue, and it's about a block away from Vassar College, and that's in the town of Poughkeepsie. And I was approached by a colleague whose venue was initially curating that space. They had ceased operations, and they offered the opportunity to us to be able to curate that space.
Mm-hmm. And now a little bit more about your work. Do you find that the work that you do can heal because you specifically deal with taphophilia and the urban exploration? Do you feel that there's a message there for healing, for work, when others see it?
I think so. I think also, there is also just like, it involves a lot about reflection, which is very important in healing, and, looking within yourself, and just kind of taking the time to also noticing different details that you haven't noticed before. Because I do have a lot of people who find the subject very fascinating because they tend to overlook it because of the stigma that it's too spooky or too
And of course, but as I said earlier, the works are beautiful. I mean, when you see them, you know that an artist has done it, that they're beautiful. But of course, I can see that there might be a stigma. And sometimes, I mean, I've had some artists on the show to speak, and sometimes the art heals the artist, or is a healing process. Maybe that's how they started initially. It's a healing process for the artist, in addition to the message that they want to get out, if I'm not mistaken. What do you I mean, what could you say to that? Does it work both ways, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I'm also in the midst of recovering from a lot of past trauma, in my younger life, and dealing with, the mental health crises that had burbled up because of that. And, art definitely has helped as be like a good tool to be able to keep myself grounded and be able to find find some purpose in my life that goes beyond just having a job, doing all the traditional roles and stuff like that, and being able to find the beauty within the world, because especially nowadays it's very hard to do that.
And indeed, and we had spoken quite a while back with the show that was with the incarcerated individuals, giving them a voice. Oftentimes, or more often than not, many of the women had come from domestic violence backgrounds, and so one can see how that form of art was there for them to at least begin their healing process. So and it's wonderful, you giving a voice to those people, you giving them the space to express their voices. That's just, I think it's wonderful that you have this space. And let me ask you, when are you open? How can someone come to see the actual brick and mortar? I know you have online, and I know, for example, I myself saw a lot of the art, was privileged to see a lot of the art during the pandemic because you did have it online for people to see. But how can one come to see the brick and mortar facility?
So we're located at 4 South Clinton Street, right between Main Street and Reservoir Circle, or Reservoir Square. And so we're around the corner from the Trolley Barn Gallery and Falkhill Creative Arts. Falkhill Creative Works, I apologize. And our hours are Fridays and Saturdays from 2 to 6 p.m. and by appointment during the week. And you can contact us directly either through social media or through our website, or also just email us, or you can even give us a phone call. We will gladly take appointments and try to accommodate, everyone's different schedules.
Oh, that's wonderful. I definitely will make that known in the notes, that where your address is, where you're located, where people can reach you. And what's next coming up? What's next for the gallery? What's down the line? Some shows other than the one that we spoke about, that's coming up soon. Well, actually, we actually spoke about two, because you mentioned that the nature religions were going to have a more or less an annual venue through you. Is that correct?
That is the October and September.
Right.
Over the summer, we are going to be, Seen Heard will be opening in July and running until the end of August. We will be also having our next rendition of women's WWA at the Crafted Cup, July to August. And then that will be starting a week after Seen Heard. And then we are also participating this year in Upstate Art Weekend, which is an annual.
Oh, yes.
And it's a open studios type of event, but it is encompassing the entire Hudson Valley region. And we are also going to be doing a block party for the community on February 22nd. We are looking for local artists and participants who want to come and share their artwork, and it would be outside and similar to like an outdoor block party. And this is a community event that is open up to everyone, and it was conceived as an idea of being able to uplift Poughkeepsie's arts community through this event, which historically has underrepresented Poughkeepsie in their past few years since they started.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So I'm assuming your calendar has all the information of what's going on. And how far do you book out your ideas, your curatorial decisions? How far out do you go?
We're booked out until my schedule is out until the end of this year, and then towards the end of the year I will start figuring out what we're going to be doing for 2024.
Oh, lovely. Well, again, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. My audience is always interested in hearing about the arts and how the arts heal and what's available to them. So I so appreciated that you took the time. I know you're a wife, you're a mother, you're working full-time, probably more than full-time. So I thank you again very much. Hopefully we'll see each other. I'll be able to come to see some of the shows now that people are moving around more. So we're not that far from one another. So it would be nice to see. Yes. Again, thank you so much, Nikki. I so appreciate it. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You too, Marissa. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye now.